Celeste is a perfect game. I got it a year ago and I had a lot of fun playing it. Played it for about 60 hours and I was thinking about making a video on it, so I wrote down my ideas, different things I liked about it, different things I disliked about it, and then I reread it and I realized that I couldn't come up with anything that I didn't like about Celeste. It's truly a perfect game. Everything about Celeste is perfect. The music's great, the graphics are great, the movement and physics are very satisfying, and the story is quite good. So that's basically what my video is going to be about, how Celeste is so good. Let's first start with Celeste's sound design. I gotta give it to the developers. They did such a good job deciding the sounds and music for this game. They are great. Like, the soundtrack and the background music is just spectacular, and the sounds you hear from NPCs are all just great. They fit the style of the game and it just works really well. My two favorite songs, or I guess I should say like soundtracks, not exactly songs, but they're Reflection and Scattered and Lost. And I'll go over these two songs just because they kind of help summarize everything about Celeste and all the different soundtracks. Reflection helps build the story so well. Like, as you're playing through Reflection and understanding the story behind it as you're fighting the alternate version of yourself, you just hear this music in the background and it just helps build the moment. I absolutely love it. And Scattered and Lost is tied with Reflection for my favorite song, and this is just because of how well it builds. It starts all the way in the middle of the hotel when you're helping clean up all that mess in that one room, and every time you get past a certain room or you clean up a certain amount of that trash, then this song adds an element to it. It adds percussion or adds a little bit of piano, and it just builds until the very end when there's that kind of fight or escape sequence. That is just so beautiful because all the music coming together, and it's so chaotic, yet it's so beautiful because you were there for the whole journey of the song. And I'll quickly talk about the sound effects, and specifically the dash, because the dash is one of the things that I think the Celeste designers did really well, just because dashing around, I mean, besides the animations, that's something else, but the audio that comes with the dash is very satisfying, and it really helps Celeste feel good when you're playing it. The next section is the graphics. Now, when I first sat down to buy Celeste, I was very skeptical of the graphics. I wasn't sure if I was going to like them because I've played a lot of pixel art games that I haven't been impressed with, but I gotta say, if Celeste was not pixelated, I would not have enjoyed it as much. The pixel art just makes it better. I love how they made the backgrounds and all the different items, the strawberries, the NPC art, everything's great. And they also did a great job at combining that with 3D elements. For example, the dialogue boxes have high quality 3D images of Celeste and the other NPCs. And also another thing that I was kind of skeptical about and still am is the home screen or the menu screen where you can see the mountain that you're going up. But I think it fits the game well because it helps us understand that we actually are going up a mountain, and I think this 3D style does it much better than if it was just a 2D mountain. I've had multiple times while playing Celeste where I enter a new room and I just am overcome with emotion just because of how pretty it is. Like, they did so much with the limitations of pixel art. There's so many beautiful areas that I took for granted. I want to go back and play it again just because of how beautiful those scenes are. Another thing that Celeste does really well is make the platforming itself really satisfying. Now, this is probably the most important element of Celeste, but the sound design and graphics go along with this satisfying physics and game engine to make Celeste so good. If Celeste was not as satisfying as it is, it would not be as fun. The sound design and graphics build towards the perfection of Celeste, but without the satisfying movement and physics, it would not be what it is today. I've seen multiple YouTube videos just breaking down how satisfying Celeste is, but personally, I think it just comes down to how fluid Celeste feels. You can control her so easily, and after the first few minutes of gameplay, you feel connected with Celeste. Like, you can dash around, you know your limits when you're climbing, you know if you're gonna make a jump, and it just comes together really well, and without it, Celeste platforming would not be as fun as it is. The story for Celeste is a little bit confusing to me. I played the game and I read all the dialogue, but I was kind of confused until I played it a second time, and then I understood what was going on. And I don't personally understand it as much because I haven't felt seriously depressed before, but I've read a lot of reviews and comments online, and I understand that they did a really good job expressing the feelings and the emotions that people with depression feel. And I think that it was a great idea for these game developers to add that to the game, and I'm pretty sure the game was made off the story first, and then graphics and the movement and the platforming came later. But they did a great job putting this great story into this game that is really great, and even if you haven't felt anything like that, any depression or mental health, it's still a really fun game to play. So those are the 4 main points that I wanted to go over, but there are some other stuff that I gotta mention, like how Celeste is so replayable. I've played Celeste, I don't know, a dozen times, over and over, and I even started learning how to speedrun it on my own. I didn't look at any YouTube videos. I just tried to figure out how I could beat Celeste as fast as possible, and I believe my record is 1 hour and 1 minute. And as a whole, Celeste is just really fun to play. When the great soundtrack comes in and there's these beautiful graphics and you're moving around this world with ease and dashing and climbing and you're enjoying the story, the game just becomes really fun. And this goes along with the replayability of the game. It's just fun to just do this over and over and repeat a level and try to grab that strawberry. The game is fast paced and never feels slow because the game moves at the pace that you go at, which means the game never slows you down and it never speeds you up, so it's all up to you, and I really like that. The footage that you've seen in this video is from levels 1 to 7, and that's just because that's the only footage I had, but the other C-sides, B-sides, core, and farewell are also great. The game is difficult, and it's not just farewell, even though farewell is one of the most difficult things in the game, but the game in general is difficult. You never feel like it's too easy, and this game progressively gets harder, and you progressively get better reflexes and better understanding of Celeste, so you just combat that new difficult platforming with the skills that you're developing. So I'm really glad how well they balanced out the difficulty. And that's the video, guys. That's Celeste. I wish I could talk about more, but I wanted to keep this video nice and sweet, and yeah. If you liked the video, comment something that you agreed with me or disagreed about, and I'll reply and we can have a discussion. I'll see you guys later.